Wonderful. All right, good morning. Good morning, everybody. This is truly an honor to have Dr. Peter Schulam for our IR, the Interventional Radiology Grand Round today. So he's quite busy. He's a professor of urology and surgery. He's a chair and the chief of urology here at Yale. For the last 4 or 5 years he's been here, I mean, he really built a great, fantastic urology team, enhanced not only urological care, but also the infrastructure and the programs in the research and academics in urology. Also, he is the physician-in-chief at the Smilow Cancer Center and the director of Yale Cancer Center. So he's quite busy, but if I may guess, because of his interest, perhaps the work that he enjoys the most is being the founder and the director of CBIT, the Center for Biomedical Interventional Technology. So today he will share with us his vision of innovation, the intervention technology, and the medicine. Dr. Schulam.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation, Dr. Kim. It's a pleasure to be here. This is very informal. Hopefully it'll be very relaxed. What I'd like to do with you is share with you CBIT, what we've built over the last 2 years, and hopefully interest you in participating and show you where there are opportunities for residents, students, and faculty members. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have heard of CBIT or participated in a hackathon? Okay, great. So hopefully this will be valuable for you. So this is what we focus in on. CBIT, its mission is to catalyze biomedical technology development and commercialization at Yale. So what we work with is the School of Medicine, identifying unmet clinical needs. We work with the School of Engineering for technology and their support. And then we also work very closely with the business school. So basically with this triumph, we can actually focus on medical device technologies. Our scope is medical devices, diagnostics, processes, health IT, but we don't focus on pharma. So we leave pharma out of this. However, our interest is also with drug delivery. So nanoparticles with Mark Saltzman, for instance, would be covered within the CBIT umbrella. You know, even though I mentioned just these 3 institutions here within Yale, we actually work with the School of Nursing, the School of Law, and so and the college. So we extend across the university. This is our team. So when I arrived here 4 years ago, I met with Mark Saltzman. Mark, I don't know if you know of him, phenomenal physician, researcher. He came here from Johns Hopkins. He was the inaugural chair of the Department of Biomedical Engineering, which over the last 10 years has developed into one of the best programs in the country. So I met with Mark and we came up with this idea of bringing together university-wide all the interest in medical device design, realizing that there were silos of it across the university. So he and I pitched this to the dean of the medical school. We received some funding, and with those dollars, we then recruited Chris Luce and Jean Zhang, who essentially do most of the work. When I came here, I had a similar program at UCLA where I was for 12 years prior to coming here 4 years ago, really just focused on education. And we actually, through that program, graduated 40 PhDs in biomedical engineering through a program housed within the hospital. One of those members I brought with me. He did a great job here. He was with me for the first 2 years, and then he was recruited away to Stanford, unfortunately. So with his recruitment away, we were able to bring in Chris Luce and Jean Zhang. Just to give you background, so Chris is someone who trained with Bob Langer up at MIT. Bob Langer is an amazing engineer. He's considered the most prolific engineer in the world in this century. He has over 1,200 licensees and 1,200 patents and 250 licenses. Chris trained with him, graduated in 2009, started a company with him. He exited the company in 2012 for $88 million, and about a year later was looking for something to do. So we were able to recruit him here to Yale to work with us, and he's been an unbelievable addition and really built the program along with Jean. Jean received her PhD here at Yale with Rob Marrow, who then went on to be the R&D head at Apple, and she had an undergraduate degree at MIT. These two people really deserve all the benefit. They did a fantastic job. And then recently we brought in Mike Dempsey, who's a serial entrepreneur associated with CIMIT up at MIT Harvard, and Aisha Khalid, who's an ENT surgeon who has an interest in health IT. So this is now our team. We're expanding to 2 additional, but we built quite a team over the last 2 years. What do we do? This will just walk you through it. Number one, we build a network to identify unmet clinical needs, as I already mentioned. And what we try to do is catalyze team formation and education across the schools. So again, working with the School of Medicine, Engineering, the Center for Engineering, Innovation, and Design. So I don't know if many of you know, but there's a center called CEID, Engineering, Innovation, and Design, up at Grove and Prospect, and it's a makerspace. It's a phenomenal facility. So within it is housed several 3D printers, CAD machines, lathes. Basically, it's a prototyping stage center. We use this very actively for both our classes and our programs. We work, again, closely with the School of Management, and we extend beyond Yale. We've now reached out to both UConn and Quinnipiac. We support our projects with value analysis, regulatory, and business planning. So we work very closely with the Yale Entrepreneurial Institute, which has been around for 8 years. They started out as a venture creation program for undergraduate students, and they've expanded to venture creation for faculty as well. We work with the Office of Cooperative Research, which is our tech transfer office here at Yale, and very closely with Yale New Haven Hospital. One of the reasons why we're more unique than we think even CIMIT, which is up at Boston at MIT and the Harvard programs, is that we have a very close relationship with our hospital, which acts as a great test tube for a lot of the work that we do. We also have managed over the years to fund projects and connect them to investors and industry. So we work with the Yale Center for Clinical Investigation, which is our CTSA here, Connecticut Innovations, which I'll describe a little bit later, the Department of Economic Development, the NIH, and we also have reached out and created programs with industry. And so we work very closely with Cooper Surgical and Medtronic, which, as you know, was formerly Covidian. So what do? We have 3 missions. One is education and extracurricular opportunities. We're trying to enhance or develop innovation and entrepreneurship within the Yale community. In order to do that, we have to mentor projects, provide funding, and then thirdly, we want to engage partners. Partners being the commercial entities that exist within the state of Connecticut. So how do we do education? This has probably had our greatest impact on the university and has been the beacon for our program statewide, if not nationally. We started our first Yale Hackathon in October of 2014. And a hackathon is an event that occurs over 2.5 days. It begins on Friday evening and ends Sunday afternoon. So Friday evening, we have experts come in from potentially particular areas within medicine, or it can be very general. And basically, people present pain points. So they educate the audience, and actually we used the TAC auditorium for this particular one. Auditorium was full. Everyone came forward with ideas, questions, concerns, areas that they have difficulty with within their own realm. The teams, which are multidisciplinary, so in the audience you have members from the college, School of Engineering, graduate students, undergraduate, law students, School of Management. You have some professors. We had a lot of students involved and residents. The following day, Saturday morning, a few of the pain points are identified. Teams are formed around those pain points, and then over the course of the next 24 to 36 hours, they spend intensive amount of time basically building a prototype. So understanding the space, building a business model, and creating a prototype. During those 24 to 36 hours, we have mentors who are floating amongst all the teams, so people from industry, providing both business and technical expertise to help them with their projects, both in the prototype and in the business planning. And then come Sunday afternoon, the pitch is made. They're given 5 to 6 minutes to basically make their pitch, which is to provide the background, identify the unmet need, describe the prototype and the business plan. And from this, it's not really to create venture, but more to create the understanding of entrepreneurship and innovation within the community and what's possible. We did our second hackathon in March of last year. It was with CBIT and CORE, the Centers of Outcome Research and Education, which is Harlan Krumholtz's program. This particular hackathon focused on 30-day readmission rates. So that was the goal. And then we had experts in that field to describe to us what the pain points were. Just to let you know of our numbers, we started to grow within 1 year. We had 290 applicants and mentors across 40 institutions from the United States. We had 4 from Florida. We had someone fly in from San Francisco and 1 from Germany. What's nice about these hackathons, so many of you know STEM is, the whole trying to get gender equity within the science has always been difficult. And even at Yale, it's only about 25 to 30% women within STEM programs. However, what we're finding with our hackathons is we have almost a 50-50 participation for both male and females. And from this particular hackathon, 23 new technologies to improve patient experience and reduce admissions. And we actually provide cash prizes. And this particular year, we had $3,000 extra, and we provided that as an add-on prize. So I think 4 of the teams received additional mentorship over the course of 4 weeks. They came back, and then they competed for the $3,000 prize. And then our most recent hackathon was just in January of this year. And again, in fact, what was amazing was we had 370 applicants for 150 spots. So we had over 100 individuals on a waiting list to participate. We had 38 institutions. Again, we had representation outside the state. Again, very good gender representation. And the people that participated, you can see this is just the Yale participants, but we had many people from outside the Yale community, not only other academic institutions, but also other industries. And for the first time, we had participation by the health insurance spectrum. So we had Cigna really well represented, which is based here in Connecticut. We had 40 industry mentors, 26 judges. So the judges, the people that participate, are from the outside. We have CEOs, CMOs, VPs of companies, hospital organizations, and universities. It's interesting, through Yale Entrepreneurial Institute, we have access to over 100 mentors in the Boston, New York area. All these individuals are former or active CEOs, CMOs, and COOs of tech companies. And interestingly, 60% of them are in the medical device arena. We generated 19 technologies, and again, we had a follow-up prize for this particular hackathon. What I'd like to do is show you a video that we made recently of this 2-day event, just to give you an idea of what happens during a hackathon.
My pitch comes from something I observed in the clinic.
I consider myself an international disability advocate because I have 2 disabled sons.
We know 15% of our hospital readmissions are due to medication errors. This in turn solves as a major pain point for our home health care practitioners.
I'm a patient because I am a family member.
Treatment of a disease may be entirely impersonal, but the care of a patient has to be completely personal.
My mother has lupus and she's had it for the past 15 years. I am the person responsible for her health and well-being.
What I'm proposing to help fix is how to get patients more mobile in a safe way to get them healthier and out of the hospital.
Is there a way that we can use technology to make my life easier and simpler so I can be a better provider for her?
Healthcare Hackathon is an amazing way to really inspire change in both patient experience and provider engagement in one weekend.
From my perspective, it is a source of a lot of new ideas and ways of looking at systemic problems in the healthcare industry.
I love organizing healthcare hackathons because it's a chance to do community building and really challenge the status quo about what we can do in terms of healthcare innovation.
My first hackathon was the Hacking Pediatrics Hackathon, and my biggest takeaway from that was the great sense of teamwork that came out of working with people that you've never met before.
I participated in last year's Healthcare Hackathon at Yale, where I was able to form a multidisciplinary team and actually take an abstract idea and form a product in the course of a weekend.
I came to Yale from about a decade being an Air Force Special Operations pilot. And what I really like is an environment of controlled chaos that you have to somehow kind of manage. In a period of 24 to 48 hours, you see people do things that would take others several months or years to accomplish. That's a remarkable.
The best ideas always come when you have limited time to work on them, because your brain just shuts off all those judgment things that go on normally, and ideas just flow out. You don't have enough time to critique or highly critique ideas and problems. You just throw out ideas and let them stick, and sometimes the most genius ideas come out in those sort of impromptu sessions. It's a really good opportunity to uncover the problems that really exist in the healthcare field that you might not originally think do exist. And it gives you the setting along with the connections in order to innovate upon them and actually find real solutions.
Going to hackathons, you meet people from all sorts of different backgrounds and different knowledge points and different life experiences in different countries, different states. I mean, from everywhere. And that is what I love about the problem solving at a hackathon, is that you're taking it not from one person's perspective or two people's perspective, but you're looking at that problem from all these different angles, and it means that the solution can encompass so many different more aspects and really completely solve the problem.
So in researching this, we found a study that shows actually an exponential relationship between the frequency of a stethoscope being cleaned and actually the number of deadly bacteria found on the stethoscope diaphragm.
And we built a seizure detection device for use in pediatric epilepsy.
We have designed a revolutionary blanket wrap that combines all of these methods into one. Presenting to you Mamta Blanket Wrap.
First one is the best pivot prizes. It's Team Mumta. Team Mumta.
So that's an advertisement, hopefully, for what we do and how we do it. Again, these hackathons, what's great about them is they can be as focused as we want or as general as we want. But the energy that's created and the networking that's created is what is best about it, because our hope is that what will happen as you move forward is that teams may not have a venture here, but relationships would be developed that will lead to something down the road. So what else do we do? So I'm trying to give you an overview of how we started. So the hackathons really made a bit of a splash. The other area that we have found very useful is what we call clinician pitch nights. And what we do here is we try to bring together mainly physicians who have ideas, but yet not yet kind of developed or even on a napkin drawing. So basically the question is there a business around that particular idea? So we'll bring potentially 5 to 6 physicians together up at the School of Management. We've done it both at the CEID, the Center for Engineering, Innovation, Design, and the School of Management. We do this about every 3 to 4 months, and what's amazing is we get about 80 graduate students from the School of Management in the room. They hear about 6 or 7 pitches from the physicians, and then we let that organically kind of ferment and so to speak, to let the groups come together. So people in the audience who may be interested in a particular idea will come together. They'll work with that physician, look at the business model, begin business planning, and determine whether the idea has any commercial viability. We also organize speaker series. So Bob Langer, I already mentioned, he was our initial speaker. He did a great job. This was in 2014. We've had Dave Whitaker from Elm Street Ventures. We have a lot of venture creation opportunities here within the New Haven area. John Abele came last year. He was the founder of Boston Scientific and was fantastic. The idea is we're bringing in these entrepreneurs and these innovators is to basically cultivate a culture here within Yale that, you know, we're no different and we have the opportunities that places like MIT and Stanford have. We also provide coursework. So this is a great program. This was our first program 3 years ago. Biomedical, it's called MENG-BENG, so it's co-listed in mechanical engineering and biomedical engineering, medical device design innovation. It's offered every fall. The idea behind it is prototyping of a clinician-posed need. We have physicians and residents, nursing faculty, hospital administrators engaged working with the students. So let me just step back. So what will happen is, this happened just this past fall, we basically reach out to the community at Yale and ask them, do you have any ideas that you want to propose for this classroom? When we first started, we were hard pressed to get 4 ideas. This past fall, we had 16 teams come forward, mainly from faculty members with ideas. We had to select only 4. The course only allows 16 students. We have over 80 sign up. The first year we offered this course, it was the #1 rated course in the history of Yale College for student satisfaction. Over the years, over this last fall, we had one project from transplantation, one from anesthesia, and the buy-in is that if your project is selected, you need to work with the students at a minimum of 1 hour a week. So you have to go to CEID, go up to the classroom and work with the students over the course of 15 weeks. They then, over those courses of 15 weeks, understand the problem and actually develop a prototype. The cool thing is that we've been very successful on a national level with the projects that have come out of this program, and we had the best collegiate biomedical innovation in 2014, and this was a transplant idea. So the transplant team came forward and said, small bowel transplants, one of the limitations is we don't have a preservation device for small bowel. Team worked on this, developed a device, first place at the Collegiate Biomedical Innovation Seminar in 2014. They have IP around it, and it's going into clinical trials. Currently, there's 4 teams at a national meeting in Minnesota, actually yesterday and today, competing from this past fall's project. So this is a great program. One of the other areas, we built a program with Chris Luce, MGT MD 657, Creating Healthcare and Life Science Ventures. This is offered in the spring at the School of Management for the graduate school. However, it's open to the whole university, so there are residents involved, medical students, college students, and law students as well. The idea is to work on creating business strategy for student and clinician inventions. As I mentioned, it's cross-listed, high-profile speakers, and over 100 applications for 60 slots. So what we're finding is these courses that we're putting on are highly competitive and very selective. And through this, last year, 10 business plans were created. I think over here, what Chris wanted to show is basically just showing you the representation of the various schools that are participating, that it's truly multidisciplinary. So even though the class is in the School of Management, we have representatives from the various colleges throughout the university. So that kind of gets everyone thinking about innovation and entrepreneurship. Then the question is, if you have an idea, what happens? And that's probably, this is our most challenged area, because what this requires to take an idea that you have, once there's a business plan around it, is to then come up with prototyping. In order to have prototyping, you need funding, but even to get to that point, it's mentorship. And mentors are those that have either the technical expertise or the business expertise to help guide you through this process. So that's the challenging part, because the hours that are required for this are great. So the resources are limited, and this is where we've had the greatest difficulty in raising the mentorship program. However, we've been fairly successful over the last year or so, and now we have in-house mentors as well. On our website, you can submit ideas that we'll help vet with you. We've had over 100+ project submissions to date, all of them ranging from devices to diagnostics to health IT, low tech to high tech. And emerge from all backgrounds and walks of life. So we have patients submitting ideas, nurses. We extend all the way down to Greenwich Hospital. It's been amazing the number of people who've entered our website to share their ideas with us. The last hackathon we were most proud is that we had 30 patients from the hospital participate for 2.5 days in the hackathon. Funding, so without dollars, no one would show up, and fortunately, we've been able to put some together. As I mentioned, we have some funding from the YCCI, so this is our CTSA here at Yale. Last year, they identified us as an emerging core. They gave us $200,000, and with that $200,000, we created 4 $50,000 awards. We had 30 letters of interest submitted. Of those, we asked for 10 formal grants, and we selected 4 just in the last 4 months. Basically, the $50,000 is for 1 year to help de-risk key clinical aspects of the projects. There's no basic science. The idea is this should be this should be to the point of actual prototype development and basically setting them up for STTR, SBIR dollars. We also recently received $1 million from Bioscience Innovation Fund, so it's Connecticut Innovations. They have, I don't know if many of you know, but they have a $500,000 grant. It's an evergreen program that they have. There's $20 million in this, or I'm sorry, $200 million in this fund. The problem is that it's not a grant. It's basically a loan. They were having difficulty getting projects submitted to them for the $500,000. So we went to them and said, look, why don't you create $30,000 grants, and that'll create a pipeline potentially of larger projects that can then be competitive for your $500,000 awards. So they gave us $1 million, and we just put together our Bioscience Innovation Fund. We are administrating the fund through CBIT. We gave out our first 10 awards just this past winter, and our next deadline is just next week. So what I want to do is just go through a couple of examples of how an idea can come to fruition and and how we help along the stage of development. I think this is a great example of that. So Elliot Brown is in the Department of Radiology. He's a faculty member, and he had come forward with an idea to develop a better method for less painful and more efficient bone marrow biopsies. He basically stating that the current technology, there's a lot of pain associated with it, but more importantly, because of hemodilution, the actual aspirate, the efficiency of the aspiration is very poor as well. So just to kind of walk through the steps. So in November of 2014, he came to a pitch night, which you now know about, at the School of Management, and just basically said, here's my idea, here's really where the need is. A group of graduate students got together with him, said, let's identify the market, let's do a market analysis. And there were some changes to his idea that needed to be done because they didn't quite feel as though it was commercializable. But with that group, he pivoted, as we called, and kind of redirected his ideas. He then, in December, did a pitch night at CEID, which is the maker space up at Grove and Temple, basically with engineers who then came together and said, I think I have some ideas for you, because it required a lot of fluid mechanics and understanding how aspirates can be drawn. Then in February of 2015, he actually filed for a provisional with our Office of Cooperative Research, our tech transfer. And then in the fall of 2015, he became a clinician mentor for the MENG-BENG program that I just demonstrated to you. So his project was one of the fall projects. So he worked with 4 undergraduate and graduate students on his project over a 15-week period to create a prototype. We also just gave him $30,000 from that Connecticut Innovation Grant so that he can make the first prototype. And he continues to get mentorship from the Yale Entrepreneurial Institute, our program, and the School of Management. So I think this is a real example of how something from an idea can go to a drawing, to a business plan, to an actual prototype. This is another, it's a focal brain cooling for treating of epilepsy. So we're working with the Department of Neurosurgery on this particular project. And this is kind of a cool idea, and I just want to, I think it's just, again, it provides an example of where the opportunities are within CBIT and within the community. So one of our areas of interest, and this was Richard Fan, who I brought over from UCLA, had an interest in MEMS, microelectrical machining systems, pressure sensors, and was working with a particular group on pressure sensors for prosthetics, so that if you had a prosthetic foot associated with a prosthetic leg, a limb, you can actually get pressure sensation from the foot that can go back onto the thigh to help with balancing. One of the undergraduate students who was working with him on this project said, you know what, I had scoliosis as a child. Is there anything we can do with respect to pressure sensing and the braces? And when they started investigating this again with the School of Management, they realized there was a huge opportunity here. What he wanted to do was build a better brace, and in fact, that wasn't the problem. The braces were adequate. It's just that the children don't wear the brace, so if they don't wear the brace, it eventually leads to surgery. So with that, he said, how can we develop a better brace using the MEMS technology for pressure sensors? And it sounds simple, but what he came up with is the idea, and these are 3 undergraduate students working with CBIT about 2 years ago. Let's go ahead and create a brace, but put pressure sensors here so that we can detect the tension that the brace is applied, and 2, the time that it's applied. Have that communicate with someone's smartphone up into a cloud. It's accessible by physicians, it's accessible by parents, and then you can actually begin to monitor compliance of this. Well, eventually this led to a prototype. He received over $100,000 venture capital funding. They have a patent, and they're in clinical trials at Columbia now, all within the course of 2.5 years. An unbelievable group of undergraduate students who took the opportunity here to commercialize an idea. Finally, I just want to talk about engagement with partners. So the other key, I think, is to really bring in industry, because we can't, we're not very good at commercialization. We're not very good at prototyping. We need access, I think, to the areas that we have available to us that have the expertise. So we've created a clinical immersion program with Medtronic, and I started with Covidian. The idea behind the clinical immersion program is that we would bring in high-level engineers and the administrators, so there's no sales force. It's basically only those that are high-level administrators within a company, and their high-level R&D engineers are to come in, and we basically provide operating room experience. We provide didactic lectures from Yale faculty, so we have a complete program. It's 3 months long. We have lectures from value analysis, hospital purchasing, patient experience. They're interested in doctor disposal. They're interested in what happens to their product how is it sterilized, so they want to go to central processing. Places and things that we think about this, we don't even think about this, but to them is extremely important for them to experience. Joint collaborative projects, now we're starting to have projects between Medtronic and faculty, and the bottom line is we're increasing exposure of the Yale community to Medtronic, which is leading to job opportunities for many of our students. So to date, we've trained or had over 97 senior level managers and engineers through our program. We've increased our opportunities for the students, and where we want to go next with this, and this is a little bit of a challenge, is how can we now begin to collaborate with them? It's fascinating. When they were in the operating room, this is how simple, this is how easy there are, or how simple there is to understand that there are many, many opportunities out there. So one of the opportunities that Medtronic has taken advantage of was when they're in the operating room, they had never watched their product actually be opened. It sounds ridiculous, but they said, you know, we're sitting there and we're watching the nurses open our products on the sterile field, and we said, what are you doing? And they said, we designed that so that it would be laid on a flat surface. You would then peel back, and she said, you know, the nurses were saying, we don't have space to do that. So the way we open it, it's basically a one-handed technique. We grab the box, we then do the peel, and then the surgeons or other nurses will help us gather the product out of the box. And it was interesting, they said, we never realized that before. So they actually took a group of nurses from Yale down to Medtronic and started working with packaging. And there's patents around this, it's amazing. And they're creating better packaging for devices for the operating room. So again, it doesn't have to be some high-tech device, but the opportunities for innovation and entrepreneurship sometimes can be right in front of you. What we've done to build our capabilities within the university is basically, as I tell everyone, the key to success is don't worry about ownership. So everyone always comes up to me and they said, you're a urologist, what are you doing? And I said, this has nothing to do with urology. It's for the university, it's for everyone, we're open, no one owns this. This is not my program. I just started the ball rolling. It's really everyone else's program. And if ever we're gonna give anyone credit, it's really Chris Luce and Gene Zhang. And what we did was, the other piece of advice is, you know, my philosophy in life is be inclusive, not exclusive. So anyone who wants to participate can participate. And what we've been happy to say is that we've had great participation from the School of Medicine, and you can see those that have kind of participated. So we have an advisory board that meets every 6 weeks to look at our progress, come up with ideas. How can we pivot and become better to the community? School of Public Health. We have the engineering school, YEI, and Kyle Jensen, who is the inaugural professor of entrepreneurship at the Yale School of Management, is very actively involved. But more importantly, we also have an executive panel that meets every 6 months. And here we try to bring together high-level individuals from the university. So we have the dean of the engineering school, dean of the medical school, but also what we want to do is reach out into the community, bring together venture capitalists, CEOs and CEOs of major organizations. So this group meets every 6 months, again, as an advisory to CBIT. So the reason I'm really here is hopefully to kind of expose you to what we do, but really to get you into our funnel. We did a similar presentation to the residents in general surgery, unbelievable interest, and these are some of the things that have come out of that and where we think there's potential collaboration for the Department of Radiology with CBIT. So the hackathons, as I just was talking to Jeff, I said, you know, we can do hackathons. They can be as broad as we want or as focused as we want. So you can have a particular idea and say, you know, this is one of our pain points in our area, and then we can identify the individuals that need to participate, bring them together, and build a 2-day hackathon around that. I think the pitch nights are great opportunities for individuals and small groups. Doesn't take much of your time and could be quite valuable. We'd love to have more projects submitted for next fall for our MENG, BENG course. We hope that you participate in our workshops and our lectures. The residents in surgery are very interested in utilizing their 2nd and 3rd year research years to collaborate with PIs to develop and translate medical technology innovations to the marketplace, or to join a team. Interestingly, we have now fellowships. So in the School of Engineering, we have a 1-year graduate student fellowship through CBIT. The medical school, as you know, it's a 4-year program, but they have a 5th year that's funded. The students who participate in the 5th year can participate in fellowships, which are pre-approved by the School of Medicine. We now are a pre-approved fellowship for 5th year medical students. We had our first fellow last year, and we have another fellow this year. And then I think there's opportunities to work with industry and collaborate with Medtronics and others that are within the area to hopefully truly improve patient care. One of the opportunities with Medtronic is as we start to work out our ability to work together, and it becomes a little bit easier for IP sharing. That's one of our challenges. We've recently signed an agreement through the Office of Cooperative Research to basically be able to speak with Medtronic and think about sharing IP and intellectual property. So the university is open to that. Medtronic and their lawyers are open to that. We're just starting at our first stage, so we're dancing together before we date, so to speak. But eventually we'd like to emerge so that if you have an idea and Medtronic has an area of interest in this, that we can create a collaboration that can work together. So I have a short attention span, so I like ending early. This is CBIT. We hope you participate, and I would love to address any questions or concerns that you may have, that, what we can do better if you have something for a recommendation, or any questions about the program itself, or where you think, how could we better interact with the school, with the residency program, because what we've been impressed with is the number of ideas who have come out of our residents. Neurosurgery has several projects that are now active in our program. Thank you. Any questions? Sure.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the talk. How do you, if people come to you and they have an idea and they're sort of worried about it being taken from them, or they're worried about losing control, whether it's fame or fortune they seek, how do you sort of answer that?
It's their idea, so it's not ours. We take no IP. We have nothing involved with the IP. Usually, if your idea we feel as though warrants some type of disclosure, we get OCR involved right away. And then as your team forms, members may participate, you may include who's going to be on that license, or that, on your IP. But initially it's your idea, and it's basically, we want to be a safe zone for that. Same issue happens in our MENG, BENG coursework, because, Elliot Brown comes in with this idea. He doesn't want it to be diluted by everyone involved in working on it. So we kind of create these pockets so that, your idea is your idea, and it can work as an educational tool within the coursework. But we hope that any of the ideas submitted to us through the website or to our individuals one-on-one, it's your property. And we basically are here to guide you to how to protect it. All right. Would you guys participate in a hackathon? All right, there we go. We have one enthusiastic yes out of a room of about 40. Perfect. That's about our yield rate. It's amazing. I mean, usually we usually have about 150. We don't want to be over 200 participants, but we've been booked for all 4 that we've done. So it's been quite impressive. But the key is really the diversity of the participants that has been fantastic. And we've had, it's not only where they come from, the university or outside, but actually age. We've had some as young as 13, and then it goes up to over 70. And it's amazing how many professors participate. So it's been really worthwhile. Well, thank you again. Have a good day. Well, thank you.